Everybody, this is Peggy.
I'm Laura.
And we are
Urban Booz.
And to wrap up Women's History Month, we have an extraordinary woman who has done extraordinary things. I have always admired this woman. She's an educator. She's a mom of 4 incredible kids. She's the interim head of a school, and she's a diversity and inclusion advocate. And the list goes on and on. She's a member of several organizations. She's AKA proud member. She's a member of the Links, Jack and Jill. I don't know when this woman sleeps, but it is a pleasure to introduce Dr.WorokyaDuncan to the table.
Hey,
how are you?
And you know, we're going to talk about, one of the things I've always admired about her is that the girl knows her wine. She can't drink right now. She's celebrating, Lent. She's acknowledging Lent, not celebrating. The blasphemous to me. Don't write to me. Don't come for me, y'all. I'm trying. But we want to talk to her about certainly how, we are handling this pandemic, tips on, how we need to conduct ourselves with our children, because she is an educator. Mm-hmm. And certainly her take on wine, but of course.
And how she pairs. Because I understand Worokya is of Liberian descent, so
yes,
that's West Africa, and her husband is of Jamaican descent. So what are y'all cooking in there? I know there's tons of flavors, but what you cooking? What do you pair, and how do you manage? How do you figure that out?
Yeah, how does she manage, really?
So I can tell you what I did for tonight's meal.
Okay.
Because I love seasonings so much. I like the savories of salts, but I like different types of salts. So I like definitely Lawry's, but there's this thing, I believe it's called like finger licking or something like that. It's a seasoning that looks like Lawry's, but it's not. And then I use herbs de Provence as well.
Oh, I know them, yeah.
Yeah. And then, but here's the kicker. Then, the stuff that you can shake onto popcorn, like the ranch flavor for that.
Oh, yeah.
I mixed that, and then I seasoned chicken, and I oven fried it. Okay. And so that way it was cleaner than doing it in the frying pan. And then I transferred it from one pan to another so that all of the oil that it was in wouldn't remain in it. Right. And then for the whole Liberian part, there's a friend of mine that I went to school with in Liberia. His name is Thalmus Hare. Check him out at www.libfood.com.
Right.
And he makes Liberian food, and he sends it, and it's frozen when I receive it. And so there's Jollof rice here also. Yeah, so we're eating good. We're eating good.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jollof, that's how you say it, Jollof. I
mean, there are people who say it differently, but in my head, the best Jollof rice is Liberian, so I don't care what the other people are saying.
Well, I'm saying, I was like, we won't enter the Jollof wars.
Yeah, let's not do it because we win. Liberia wins. There was an actual contest. Liberia won.
Wow.
All right, so help me understand the American diet. What is Jollof rice?
Think of paella.
Okay.
And it's pretty much the same thing. But when I'm being really catty, I say that Liberian jollof rice versus the other ones is like making spaghetti with marinara sauce versus spaghetti with ketchup.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah, snap.
Ooh.
Now.
Wow.
So
well, I've got some cousins one cousin who married a man in Liberia. And she's a cousin, but she's called an aunt because she's so much, her children are my age. She gave me a cookbook. But what I noticed is her daughters, I have, it's like a standard Liberian cookbook, and that's what was happening. I was running around looking for a cookbook and I couldn't find it. And
oh my God.
But there's differences in textures that I noticed. There was a graduation party, and everybody cooks. And so there was something that I thought was going to be bread pudding. It looked just like bread pudding, but it had the consistency of farina. And that's when she sent me the book, because
the farina.
It was kind of like, it was like it didn't, not the consistency, but the texture of it. It was like a thick farina, but it had all the ingredients for bread pudding. So it was sweeter, it was creamy, but it still had that farina texture to it. It was cut like bread pudding. I was like, oh, it's bread pudding. And I was like, this isn't bread pudding. Meanwhile, my husband was like, this is good stuff. And he kept raving about it that she sent me the cookbook. But I know that she and her daughters, they cook with fish sauce. There's this fish sauce that kind of goes in, you just puts it in the greens, you put it in. I'm like, really? Fish sauce? It tastes good. It's just not what I was expecting, you know?
Yeah, I personally haven't done that before.
Fish sauce? Okay.
So now,
Because I know, like, if we fry fish, that will end up having some type of gravy that's left with it, and we make it with onions. If we don't, you can't usually find Liberian pepper, so we use Scotch bonnet pepper, which is pretty much the same.
Okay.
Not usually garlic, and some bell peppers and tomato, and we'll make a fish gravy from that, but you can also make chicken gravy from it as well. So that might be part of what it is, but I've not seen anyone cooking like from scratch Liberian food that has a stock fish sauce.
Okay.
and then, so what have you ever paired, like you ever drink wine with your food, or do you do that separately?
I drink it with anything, pretty much, which is why I was like, I'm going to give this up for Lent, because it was like, if I'm happy, I'm drinking. If I'm sad, I'm drinking. If I'm hungry, I'm drinking. If I'm cooking, I'm drinking. But what I would usually do is drink a red with any Liberian meal. And that was because there's nothing light we cook. And whereas I would usually, like, if I'm cooking baked chicken or baked fish, it makes sense to use a white. But Liberian food is heavy, and it's like fortified, and I feel like you need something equally rich with bioflavonoids, and that's what reds have. And so I'm usually, if I am drinking wine with my food, it's going to be a red.
Interesting.
Because so Liberian food is very seasoned, heavily seasoned.
Very
salty, but just very heavily
seasoned. And the thing is, in our jollof rice, there will be chicken, beef, shrimp, and pork. There are people who will do it just with the vegetables, and there are people who will do it just with chicken. But like real jollof rice and other Liberian meals, it's seldom just one meat. And even if it's like fried fish, we have this meal that we cook sometimes on like special Sundays, where there's cassava, and then there's red snapper, and all of that fish gravy. And with that, it's still like you'll be full enough where you probably won't want to eat until dinner. So yeah, it's heavy.
Wow. Now, one of the things that Laura and I talked about is how, drinking was always almost like, well, in my family, it was like a taboo, like only adults drank. And so what was your introduction?
Oh my God. So I grew up in a Pentecostal household.
Okay.
There you go.
Right?
Understand, and so everything was going to send you to hell. Right. So then I go to Duke for undergrad. And the first little sip I had was, I think, one of those Kahlua things, and a mudslide. There you go.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I was like, okay, I don't get it. It doesn't matter. It's not doing anything for me or whatever. And so then when I turned 21 fully, I had another one. And I'm like, yeah, this doesn't really matter. Then when I was in divinity school, my mom decided that she was going to go to China to teach for 2 years. And it's interesting how much divinity school students drink. That's when I was like really introduced to the different types of things. And it was not wine. It was all hard stuff. And from there, I developed a taste for like gins and whiskeys and all types of things like that weren't necessarily the more delicate of the drinks. And so that's been my thing since then. My mom is still like, oh my God, why are you drinking liquor? And I'm like, oh my God, why are you so judgmental? So yeah.
See, and that's the thing. You know, you just said divinity school students, but it wasn't the delicate things. It wasn't wine.
Right. It was hard stuff.
Right, but during Prohibition, the church was still able to
Oh
have
yeah.
their wine, except not the black church. You know,
Right.
so it's like, again, keep us out, keep us out. So now you're in divinity school, and it's like, oh, you need a drink of this, you know. So you know,
we need to get her Uncle Nearest whiskey. We need to. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I read about that.
Yeah, I have some to share with you. I also got what is it, Glenmoran Ghee? One of my clients
gave Scotland, and it's a fancy, it's one of those high-end Scotch.
I'll give you some, girl, because this is gonna sit here.
It doesn't go bad.
I'm just gonna make it bad. I know. I mean, I have all this Jane Walker, you know, all the stuff that we have tried, and some has been gifted to me, you know, by one of my wonderful clients. And I'm like, okay, I don't have an appreciation for it. I've tried it, and it's like, okay, you know. But one of the things that we also talked about is how Europeans introduce their children to liquor, you know. And I guess because some of them own vineyards, or I don't know if it's just the culture, you know. Certainly, what would you do? Because you have, you know, 4 wonderful kids. What are you going to tell them when it comes to appreciating it?
Well, they already know about the age issue, and I like the difference between how I grew up and how they're growing up. All my mom knew was what she was told, and she didn't see the medium. It was either you're an alcoholic or you're not, right? And the biology portion of it, where like if you're younger and you're drinking this is what can happen to your brain. Or if you have these conditions, this is what can happen to you. What they understand is like before a particular age, it's not happening at all. 2, anything in excess is extremely dangerous, period. I don't hide, because I think that can be equally dangerous, because what you make mysterious, you make more attractive. And that's not something that I ever want. But they are also way more educated and informed than I was, and their interests are more like, I want to drink soda during the day, and I want Coca-Cola. Why won't you let me have that? Right? So it's not something that's so much of an issue. And again, because I'm not hiding, that helps at all.
That's funny you say that. It's like they want soda in the day, and it's like just the whole thing of this isn't good for you, and anything in excess is bad. My daughter also, she taught school in China for a little bit, but she's in Georgia now. And my brother, who's a nurse, had said to her and to my son years ago when we went to visit, you can't have soda. Don't bring soda into the house. Soda is an adult decision. Sugar is an adult decision. And they're looking at him like, what does that mean? I was like, it's an adult decision, like crack and heroin. Sugar is an adult, but it's true. It's true in that